Can one machine really replace my Cricut, my printer, and my laser engraver? That's what I'm here to find out. The xTool M2 Colorcraft laser combines full color printing, laser cutting, and engraving into one machine. Over the last few weeks, I wanted to see if it could handle the kinds of projects that I make every day. I made stickers, glitter cardstock bookmarks, engraved leather gifts, vinyl decals, heat transfer vinyl shirts, felt ornaments, and even a personalized wooden name puzzle with full color printing. I'll show you what worked, what didn't, and whether I think it actually earned a permanent spot in my workshop. If you're new here, I'm Kerri, and I'm the author of Cricut for Dummies. I teach Cricut, laser engraving, sublimation, DTF printing, and all kinds of crafting projects here on YouTube. Over the years, I've accumulated more craft machines than I care to admit. I actually ran out of room in my upstairs craft room and ended up converting half of my basement into a workshop just to fit everything. So when I heard about a machine that could combine multiple machines into one, I had one question. Could it actually replace some of the machines taking over my house? Now, full transparency, xTool did send me the M2 to test for this video, but I'm not being paid to make it, and all of the opinions and project ideas are my own. I am an xTool affiliate, so if you decide to make a purchase through my links in my description, I may earn a small commission at no additional cost to you. For my first project, I wanted to tackle one of my least favorite parts of making layered wood projects, painting. If you've ever made layered laser projects before, you know the routine. You cut all the pieces, paint every tiny layer by hand, wait for everything to dry, and then finally glue everything together. I wanted to see if the xTool M2 could eliminate that entire painting step. I found this alphabet puzzle laser file on Creative Fabrica. I thought it was a really clever design because it had these little finger cutouts that make it easier for little hands to remove the puzzle pieces. If you've watched my channel before, you've probably heard me mention Creative Fabrica quite a bit. It's where I get most of my fonts, SVGs, and laser files, and I'll link all of the designs that I use throughout this video in the description below. One thing you'll quickly notice if you start working with laser files is that most SVGs are designed for cutting, not full color printing. That's because traditionally you'd cut out all the pieces first and then paint them afterwards. Since the xTool M2 prints your design before it cuts it, the file needs colors assigned to each layer. You can absolutely do that in another program like Inkscape, but this is one area where I think xTool Studio really stands out. Instead of opening another program and spending time recoloring every tiny piece, I simply clicked on each layer right inside xTool Studio and assigned the colors that I wanted. This saved me a ton of time and made the whole process feel so much more beginner-friendly. Once I was happy with the design, I sent it to the printer. Watching it print directly onto unfinished basswood was honestly really cool. Once the printing finished, I swapped over to the laser module. This is probably one of my favorite features about this machine. The modules are magnetic, so all I had to do was unplug one cable, lift the printer off, snap the laser module into place, and plug the cable back in. And then I was ready to go. Honestly, I wish more modular machines worked like this. I actually have an entire 5-minute tutorial about another laser on my channel showing how to swap the laser modules. It involved removing screws, disconnecting cables, and carefully putting everything back together. Compared to that, this felt incredibly easy and super simple. After everything was cut out, all I had to do was glue the pieces together. Now, normally, I'd still have dozens of little wooden pieces spread all over my table waiting to be painted. Instead, they came off the machine already finished and ready to assemble. That alone eliminated one of the most time-consuming parts of making layered wood projects. One thing I did notice is that the finished colors weren't quite as vibrant as they looked on my computer screen. That's because the xTool M2 doesn't print white ink. Instead, it uses the color of whatever material you're printing on as the background. Since this is natural basswood, the wood itself softens the colors a bit. Personally, I think it still looks really nice. It gives the puzzle a softer, more natural look that fits wood really well. The next project is one I was really excited to test out. When you think of making stickers, you probably think of a Cricut and an inkjet printer, not a laser engraver. So when I heard the M2 could actually print and laser cut stickers in the same machine, I had to see it for myself. I uploaded a bundle of small business stickers from Creative Fabrica that could be included with customer orders. Just like with my Cricut, I added an offset around each design to create a cut line. I actually had a bunch of this old Cricut sticker paper sitting around because it was always too thick for my inkjet printer. It always got stuck, so I never got to use it, but I didn't want to throw it away either. So I was pretty excited to finally have a use for it. If you've ever wondered which sticker paper works best with a Cricut, I've actually tested a whole bunch of different sticker papers to see which ones work best. I'll link that video above if you want to check it out. One thing I do want to point out is that this is sticker paper, not printable vinyl. That's an important distinction because they're two completely different materials. As a general rule, you should never put vinyl into a laser unless it's specifically labeled laser safe or PVC free. We'll come back to that a little later in this video when we test laser safe vinyl, because it's a really important difference to understand. Right away, I noticed the colors looked much more vibrant than they did on the puzzle. That's because sticker paper has a bright white, smooth surface. On the puzzle, the natural color and texture of the wood became part of the design, giving it a softer, more rustic look. Here, the colors really pop and look much closer to what I was seeing on my computer screen. What surprised me the most wasn't that it could make stickers, it was how much easier the whole process felt. If you've ever made stickers with a Cricut before, you know it normally takes two machines. First, you print your design on an inkjet printer. Then you move the sheet over to your Cricut, stick it to a cutting mat, hope you got it lined up perfectly in that upper left-hand corner. If it's a little crooked, you have to peel it off and try to stick it back down again. Sometimes your sticker paper even starts curling from peeling it off the mat. Then you load it into your Cricut and hope the registration marks scan correctly. Depending on the finish of your sticker paper and even which Cricut model you're using, that doesn't always go as planned. With the M2, I didn't have to think about any of that. I printed the stickers, swapped over to the laser module, and cut everything out in the exact same position. The material never leaves the machine, so there's no sticky mat, no registration marks to scan, and no worrying about getting everything lined back up perfectly. You can also print more stickers to a page because you don't have to worry about the registration limitations with a Cricut. Those really shrink down your usable area on the paper and waste a lot of the paper. That was probably my favorite part of this entire project, just how much easier it made the process. The finished stickers came out really clean, and I was impressed with how accurately everything lined up. I did notice a slight dark outline around the stickers after cutting, but once I peeled them off the backing paper, it was barely noticeable. Since this is still a brand new machine for me, I think that's something that I can improve with a little more testing and setting adjustments. Next, I wanted to see how the M2 handled one of my favorite Cricut projects, glitter cardstock bookmarks. I found this stunning gradient color glitter paper pad by Recollections at Michael's, and I immediately knew it would be perfect for this project. A while back, I made a similar version of these bookmarks with my Cricut before one of my book signings at Barnes & Noble. I wanted something fun to hand out to everyone who came. The biggest difference is that those had a second layer behind the glitter cutout. I cut a bunch of solid color rectangles, and everyone could pick their favorite color and glue it to the back to make the bookmark look more dimensional. For this project, I only cut out the glitter layer, but if you wanted to recreate that same look, all you'd have to do is add a solid rectangle behind it. If you'd like to see how I made the Cricut version, click the card above, or I'll link that video in the description below. Since I'd already made this project on my Cricut, I thought it'd be the perfect comparison. I had two questions. Would the laser burn through the paper? And could it cut cleanly through the glitter cardstock? I taped the cardstock directly to the laser bed, positioned the designs with the cameras, and started the cut. Just like with the stickers, I didn't have to worry about lining the paper up on a sticky mat, whether the mat was too sticky or not sticky enough, or trying to scrape delicate cardstock off afterward with a spatula. Once a cut finished, I simply lifted the cardstock up off of the laser bed and popped out a few of the little pieces that were still attached. The results really surprised me. The laser cut through the glitter cardstock beautifully, and I didn't notice any scorch marks around the edges. I liked it so much that I immediately made another one in a different color. Once I saw how well it handled cardstock, my mind immediately started going to all of the other paper projects that I could make. Greeting cards, rolled paper flowers, gift tags, cake toppers, shadow boxes. There's so many possibilities. But if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you probably know that paper isn't my favorite thing to craft with. That title definitely belongs to vinyl. You can make car window decals, customize signs, mugs, tumblers, glassware. There's just so much that you can do with vinyl. In fact, I have more than 50 vinyl tutorials here on YouTube, and I even dedicated a full chapter of Cricut for Dummies to it. If you're looking for ideas, I'll link both of those below. Almost every one of those projects could also be made on the M2, as long as you're using laser-safe vinyl. Before we get started, there's one really important thing you need to know. You cannot use regular Cricut vinyl in a laser. Most adhesive vinyl designed for cutting machines contains PVC, which can release harmful fumes when it's cut with a laser. If you're planning to laser cut vinyl, make sure it's specifically labeled as laser safe or PVC free. Adhesive vinyl is cut with the colored side facing up. And unlike heat transfer vinyl, you don't mirror your design. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, I'll go over that in the next project. Then I imported this I Need a Huge Glass of Wine SVG from Creative Fabrica. One thing that I really appreciate is xTool's material library. It includes recommended settings for hundreds of materials, which gives me a great starting point whenever I'm trying something new. For this project, I selected the self-adhesive vinyl glossy black setting and started the full cut. The design weeded nicely, and after adding transfer tape, I applied it to the glass, which was a little tricky because the glass is curved and trying to stick vinyl to a curved surface is definitely a little bit tricky. One little tip I have when applying vinyl to curved surfaces is to put a few little slits around your design, which helps you be able to bend it and shape it around the curve. I definitely need a huge glass of wine after this day. Maybe after this video, I'll run out and grab a bottle. Of course, I couldn't stop with adhesive vinyl. I love making shirts on my channel, so I had to see how the M2 handled heat transfer vinyl. I found this floral chicken SVG on, can you guess it? Creative Fabrica, and I thought that it would make the perfect shirt for my friend. I have chickens, well, had chickens, have some new ones. Sadly, they recently got killed by a raccoon, and my friend was really upset that her favorite one of my chickens died. I wanted to make her something special to remember her beloved Cocoa Bear the chicken. I had some laser-safe heat transfer vinyl in her favorite color, purple, so it seemed like the perfect project. Just like with adhesive vinyl, you can't use regular HTV in a laser. Most HTV designed for cutting machines contains PVC, so if you're planning to laser cut it, make sure it's specifically labeled laser safe. Heat transfer vinyl works a little differently than adhesive vinyl. Since you're cutting from the back, you'll need to mirror your design and place the material colored side down with the shiny carrier sheet against the laser bed. Just like before, I started with xTool's recommended material settings and made a small test cut first. My first test cut was too strong and cut right through the carrier sheet. That's not what you want because the carrier sheet is what keeps your design together while you're weeding and pressing it onto the shirt. So I lowered the settings. This time it didn't quite cut through enough. You can see the edges are kind of jagged here. After one more adjustment, I was pretty sure I found the sweet spot. I loaded the full design and let it cut. I did have a few tiny pieces cut all the way through the carrier sheet and shift around while I was weeding. See if you can find the mistakes before I point them out. Can you see which pieces are missing? Right here, right there, maybe one over here. Thankfully, this design was forgiving enough that once everything was pressed onto the shirt, my little hiccups were barely noticeable. My friend couldn't tell, and she didn't care. She loved the shirt. After trying paper, stickers, vinyl, and heat transfer vinyl, I wanted to see how the M2 handled another material that a lot of crafters use, felt. I found this layered basketball ornament on Creative Fabrica. My son loves basketball, so I thought it'd be a fun project to test. I taped each color of felt onto the laser bed and then positioned the design over the pieces using the cameras. And then started the cut. Most of the colors cut cleanly on the very first try. The only one that gave me trouble was the white felt. No matter what settings I tried, it just didn't want to cut through all the way. One thing that I found interesting with the white felt was that there was only a 1mm setting for that when all the other colors of felt had 3mm settings. I tried cutting it on a 3mm setting using the yellow color, but it just didn't want to cut all the way through. So after a little experimenting, I had the idea to cover it with painter's tape and rain it again. 2 passes later, and it finally cut through the white. I'm really not sure why the white wouldn't cut like all of the other colors did, but sometimes you just have to experiment and do a little trial and error, and the tape hack seemed to work. Once everything was cut out, all that was left was peeling out the pieces and gluing the ornament together. And just like the cardstock, there wasn't any noticeable scorching around the edges either. One thing I really like about using a laser for felt is how quickly it can cut through intricate shapes. If you sew, make felt ornaments, appliques, or layered felt projects, I could definitely see this saving a lot of prep time. I think it turned out awesome. After cutting all those different materials, I wanted to see how the M2 handled leather engraving. Well, sort of. I actually engraved 2 different leather projects, and you'll see why I'm putting leather in air quotes in a minute. The first was this leather-wrapped flask that I picked up for dirt cheap on Temu. When the engraving finished, I could barely see it. So I made the design a little bolder by adding an offset and ran it again. And again. And again. One thing that really impressed me during this process was how accurately the M2 lined everything back up every single time. Even after multiple passes, the engraving landed in the exact same spot without shifting at all. That's a really important feature because sometimes your first pass comes out too light. Being able to rerun an engraving without losing alignment can be the difference between saving a project and ruining it. Unfortunately, the flask still didn't turn out the way I was hoping. Instead of engraving like real leather, the laser burned through the brown surface and exposed this weird, rough, gray, grainy layer beneath. It looked more like the top coating had been stripped away rather than how an actual leather engraving should look. But I don't think that was the laser's fault. The flask came from Temu, and even though it was advertised as leather wrapped, I honestly have no idea what that outer material is made from. It very well could be some type of plastic or vinyl, which means I probably shouldn't have engraved it in the first place. So I grabbed something that I knew was genuine leather and tried again. The difference was immediate. The wallet engraved exactly the way I'd expect genuine leather to engrave. The mark was darker, cleaner, and had a much better contrast. Seeing these two projects side by side was a really good reminder that cheap blanks can be hit or miss. Sometimes you really do get what you pay for. If you're buying inexpensive blanks from Temu, Amazon, or anywhere else and you're planning to sell engraved products, always test them first. It would have been really easy for me to make a beautiful mock-up of that flask, list it on Etsy, get my first order, and then realize, oh no, this fake leather looks terrible once it's engraved. I'd much rather find that out now while making this video than after a customer had already placed an order. So, after spending the last few weeks putting the M2 through all of these different projects, can it really replace my Cricut, laser, and printer? For me, it definitely could, but I'm not rushing to list my other machines on Facebook Marketplace just yet. If cutting adhesive vinyl and heat transfer vinyl is a majority of what you make, I'd probably keep your Cricut. Not because the M2 can't cut through them, it absolutely can. The biggest limitation right now is the availability of laser-safe materials. There aren't nearly as many colors, specialty finishes, or brands available yet, and they're generally more expensive than the vinyl that most of us are used to buying. xTool actually has a really nice selection of laser-safe heat transfer vinyl on their website, including all the fun finishes like glitter, glow-in-the-dark, puff, color-changing, chameleon, and tons of different colors. The only downside I noticed was that a lot of them were out of stock while I was making this video. In general, laser-safe heat transfer vinyl is still harder to find than regular heat transfer vinyl. For me, the limiting factor wasn't the machine, it was simply finding the right laser-safe materials. I also don't see the M2 replacing my regular inkjet printer. Could I print my daughter's school book report on it? Technically, yes. But would I? Probably not. I can't picture myself taping copy paper to the laser bed every time I need to print something. But my inkjet printer also can't print directly onto wood, or make stickers without moving them from one machine to another, or engrave leather, or cut felt. So while it might not completely empty out my workshop, I have to admit, I'm kind of obsessed with this machine. I honestly think that it's one of the most versatile craft machines that I've ever used. What surprised me the most wasn't one big feature, it was all of the little things. The cameras made positioning my designs incredibly easy. I didn't have to fight with cutting mats. Swapping between the printer and laser module literally takes about 5 seconds. And for projects like the stickers, everything stayed in one machine from start to finish. I also think that the software deserves a lot more credit than it gets. Everyone talks about laser power and engraving speed, but after using a lot of different lasers over the years, I've learned that software can really make or break the entire experience. I even have a CO2 laser sitting in my garage that I almost never use. Not because there's anything wrong with it, I just don't like using it. The software is super frustrating, and without a built-in camera, lining everything up takes so much longer. With the M2, everything just felt really easy. From the setup, to the software, to the cameras, to the magnetic module swaps. Every project I finished immediately made me think of another one I wanted to try. I kept finding myself thinking, oh, I wonder if I can make that with the M2. And the answer was usually yes. I'm already looking forward to the holidays because I know I'm going to be making so many full-color personalized ornaments and I'm not going to have to paint any of them. Being able to print full-color designs directly onto wood instead of painting every tiny piece by hand is going to save me so much time. If you'd like to learn more about the M2, I'll have links to the machine, all the materials I used, and every design from today's projects down in the description below. And if you decide to pick one up through my affiliate links, thank you so much for supporting my channel. It allows me to keep testing new machines, creating tutorials like this one, and sharing everything I learn along the way. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.